In the final tense decade of the Cold War, the Soviet Navy had perfected the art of specialization. They had created a fleet of magnificent single-purpose Titans to hunt the silent predators of the deep. They had the Udaloy class, the ultimate submarine killer. To win a brutal surface battle, they had the Sovremeny class, a brawler armed with supersonic missiles and heavy guns. This was a powerful but deeply flawed philosophy. It was a navy of specialists in a world that was beginning to demand a jack-of-all-trades. The problem was one of balance and cost. To create a capable task force, the Soviets needed to deploy both types of destroyers, a hugely expensive and logistically complex pairing. More importantly, the backbone of their fleet, the hundreds of aging Krivak-class frigates that performed the day-to-day work of patrolling and escorting, were becoming obsolete. They were falling behind technologically and could not survive in the high-threat environment of modern naval warfare. The Soviet Union needed a replacement, but they could no longer afford the luxury of building two different classes of ship for two different missions. They needed a single, versatile, and modern warship to become the new workhorse of the fleet. This was not just a matter of efficiency. It was a looming strategic crisis. As Western naval technology surged forward, with the advent of the Aegis combat system and the Universal Vertical Launch System, the Soviet practice of building specialized ships began to look dangerously outdated. A single American destroyer could now hunt submarines, fight surface ships, and defend against air attack with a level of integration the Soviets could not match. The Soviet Navy was facing a future where its powerful but inflexible fleet could be outmaneuvered and defeated by a smaller number of more versatile opponents. Then, the world changed forever. The Berlin Wall fell. The Soviet Union dissolved. The crisis was no longer a future projection.
The animation then highlights her SSN-25 Switchblade anti-ship missiles.
The grand plans for a global fleet were dead. Shipyards fell silent. The Navy was not just facing a philosophical problem. It was facing a fight for its very survival. In this new, chaotic world, the idea of building two different classes of expensive destroyers was an impossible fantasy. They needed one ship, one design that could do it all. A survivor that could carry the Navy through the coming darkness. The solution had already been conceived in the final years of the Soviet state, a ship that was ahead of its time. It was Project 11-1540 Yastreb, or Hawk. This was to be the Soviet Union's first true multi-mission frigate. The lead ship of this revolutionary class, laid down in 1986, was given a name that would prove prophetic: Neustrashimy, fearless. The Neustrashimy class was a radical departure from past Soviet designs. First, a balanced arsenal. Her design fused the capabilities of the Udaloy and the Sovremeny into a single, compact hull. Like the Udaloy, she was built around a powerful Polynom sonar suite, giving her a formidable submarine hunting capability, backed up by RBU 6000 anti-submarine rocket launchers. But like the Sovremeny, she was also armed with potent anti-ship missiles, the SSN-25 Switchblade, second, a modern defense. For the first time on a Soviet frigate, her primary air defense was a combined gun and missile system, the Kortik Close-In Weapon System, or CIWS. This integrated system could engage incoming sea-skimming missiles with a hail of both missiles and 30mm cannon fire, a last line of defense that was a generation ahead of older systems. Third, a stealthy design. Her superstructure was designed with a deliberate focus on reducing radar cross-section. The clean, angled lines were a stark contrast to the cluttered, complex look of older Soviet warships. She was designed to be quieter, harder to detect, and more survivable. The Neustrashimy was not just a replacement for the Krivak. She was intended to be the new standard, the versatile and resilient backbone for a smaller, more modern, and more efficient
This
Soviet
will allow
Navy.
us to deploy
The
quickly
proof of the
and adapt to
Neustrashimy
any
story
emerging threat.
is one of resilience in the face of collapse. The lead ship, Neustrashimy, was commissioned into a navy that could barely afford to send her to sea. The grand plans for a fleet of dozens of these advanced frigates vanished. Construction on her sister ship, the Yaroslav Mudry, was halted for years, and she would not be commissioned for another decade and a half, a stark testament to the lost decade of the Russian military. The third hull was never completed for Russia. But the two ships that were completed for the Russian Navy proved the soundness of the original concept through their long and distinguished service. In 2008, the Neustrashimy did something extraordinary. She was deployed on a long-range mission to the Horn of Africa to combat the growing scourge of Somali piracy. This was the first time a Russian warship had undertaken such a mission. For months, she successfully escorted civilian convoys, her helicopter and boarding teams proving highly effective. This was a mission her specialized Cold War predecessors were never designed for, and it was the ultimate proof of her versatility and endurance. She became a symbol of the Russian Navy's return to the world stage. Her sister ship, the Yaroslav Mudry, once completed, became a workhorse of the Baltic Fleet, undertaking numerous long-range deployments to the Mediterranean, the Indian Ocean, and beyond. The ultimate, if indirect, proof of the design's excellence came from the unfinished third hull. It was eventually completed and sold to India, becoming the foundation for their highly successful Talwar-class frigates. This in turn led Russia to create an updated version for its own use, the Admiral Grigorovich class, the combat-proven backbone of the modern Black Sea Fleet. The legacy of the Fearless is alive and well in the most modern ships of two different navies. The legacy of the Neustrashimy class is one of tragic timing but brilliant foresight. They were the right ships built at the worst possible time. They were the intellectual bridge between the rigid, specialized philosophy of the Soviet Navy and the modern, multi-mission reality of the 21st century. They were the pioneers that proved the concept of a versatile, mid-sized frigate was the correct path forward. Even if the nation could only afford to build two of them, they are the ultimate survivors. They survived the collapse of the country that designed them. They survived the decay and neglect of the Navy they were meant to lead. And they have sailed on, performing vital missions that their creators never envisioned. They are a testament to the idea that a good design is timeless. The Neustrashimy-class frigates are the unsung heroes of the post-Soviet Russian Navy. They are not the biggest, the most famous, or the most advanced, but they are perhaps the most important. For they are the ships that held the line. They are the fearless survivors, the unfulfilled promise that nonetheless endured to serve with honor.